Hey everyone, welcome back to the AI Tech channel. Today, we're diving headfirst into a potential political and technological firestorm. Imagine this: Donald Trump, possibly back in the White House, and Elon Musk's AI-powered Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, reportedly being unleashed on the Department of Education, hunting for cuts. Sounds like a movie plot, right? But this is real. Is this a revolutionary way to streamline government, or a recipe for disaster that could cripple our education system? That's the million-dollar question, and we are going to break it all down. This is potentially huge, folks. Buckle up. All right, let's get to the facts. The buzz is that a potential Trump administration is looking at drastically reshaping the Department of Education. And here's where it gets interesting. They're reportedly planning to use Elon Musk's DOGE, an AI initiative, to identify areas for massive budget cuts. We are talking about running sensitive data, including personally identifiable information and financial records, through AI algorithms to find inefficiencies. The goal? To shrink the department, potentially shifting responsibilities and funding to the state level. Now, this isn't confirmed, but the rumors are swirling, and the implications are enormous. Think about it. AI is being used to reshape one of the most vital sectors of our society. It is either genius or a complete catastrophe, and it could be both. Okay, let's talk about the direct impact if this actually happens. First and foremost, expect absolute chaos and uncertainty within the Department of Education. Can you imagine the stress? Employees are facing potential job losses, reassignments. Their entire careers could be up in the air. Morale? Forget about it. And it doesn't stop there. In the short term, we're talking about serious funding cuts to crucial programs like Title I, which supports high-poverty schools, special education initiatives, and student aid. Policy shifts are almost guaranteed, potentially weakening civil rights enforcement in schools and dialing back on diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. This is not just about numbers. This is about real people and real opportunities. Let's drill down on those funding cuts. We're talking about potentially slashing budgets for programs that directly impact students. Title I, special education, student loans, these are lifelines for many. And what about policy? A shift away from federal oversight could lead to a Wild West scenario, with states left to pick up the pieces. This could create massive disparities between states, leaving some students behind. And consider the confusion and hardship for college students and their families if federal student loan programs are altered. This is a domino effect, and the first domino is about to fall. Now, let's fast forward a few years. What are the long-term consequences? Reduced funding and weaker federal oversight could lead to a decline in the quality of education, especially in under-resourced schools. This isn't just about test scores. It's about the future of our workforce. Achievement gaps between students from different socioeconomic backgrounds could widen significantly. Imagine a scenario where a child's zip code determines their educational opportunities. That's a scary thought. And federal support for educational research and innovation? That could dry up, stifling the development of new teaching methods and technologies. We need to be investing in the future, not cutting it off at the knees. This isn't just an education story, it's a tech story too. The use of AI in government decision-making is about to be under a microscope. Data privacy, bias, and transparency are going to be the buzzwords. And let's not forget Microsoft, whose Azure service is reportedly being used for this sensitive data analysis. This could be a major reputational risk for them if things go south. EdTech companies that rely on federal funding or partnerships with the Department of Education, they are in for a bumpy ride. This could be a make-or-break moment for many in the tech sector. The financial sector is also in the crosshairs. Changes to federal student loan programs could impact the profitability and stability of student loan servicers. Higher education institutions could face tuition increases and enrollment declines due to reduced federal aid. This could lead to a vicious cycle of rising costs and shrinking opportunities. And what about the nonprofit sector? Education advocacy groups are going to be working overtime to promote educational equity and access. We might even see increased philanthropic investment in education to try and fill the gaps left by federal funding cuts. It is going to be an all-hands-on-deck situation. And you can bet the media is going to be all over this. Increased scrutiny on the use of AI in government by national and local news outlets is inevitable. They'll be digging into the data, interviewing experts, and holding politicians accountable. This is going to be a major talking point for months, if not years, to come. The public deserves to know what's happening and how it will affect them. Let's get down to the real-world impact on individuals. Students from low-income families may have fewer opportunities to attend college or pursue higher education due to reduced financial aid. This could limit their economic mobility and earning potential. And what about the students who have to take on more private student loan debt to finance their education? They could be saddled with long-term financial burdens that impact their lives for decades. This isn't just about numbers. It's about the hopes and dreams of millions of young people. On a community level, a less educated workforce can hinder economic growth and competitiveness. This makes it harder for communities to attract and retain businesses. Widening educational disparities can exacerbate social inequality and create divisions within communities. And on a national level, a decline in the quality of education can undermine our long-term economic competitiveness in a globalized world. A less educated population can pose risks to national security by limiting the pool of talent available for critical industries and government service. This is about the future of our nation. Now, let's talk about the risks. Big risks. The fact that DOGE is running sensitive data from the Department of Education through AI is a major red flag. We're talking about personally identifiable information and sensitive financial data. This raises serious concerns about data breaches, unauthorized access, and misuse of data. Can you imagine the fallout if this data were to be hacked or leaked? It could lead to identity theft, fraud, and irreparable reputational damage. And let's not forget about compliance with privacy laws like GDPR, CCPA, and FERPA. This is a potential legal minefield. Algorithmic bias is another huge concern. The AI algorithms used to analyze the data may be biased, leading to unfair or discriminatory outcomes. Imagine the AI disproportionately targeting certain programs or demographics. And what if the AI's analysis is simply flawed? Incorrect conclusions about where cuts can be made could harm essential programs and services. We need to be absolutely sure that this AI is fair, accurate, and transparent. The lack of transparency and explainability is also a major issue. These AI algorithms can be incredibly complex and opaque, making it difficult to understand how they arrive at their conclusions. This black box effect makes it hard to identify and correct errors or biases. And if the reasoning behind these decisions is unclear, how can we hold anyone accountable? We need to demand transparency and accountability in the use of AI in government decision-making. DOGE's dependence on Microsoft's Azure service introduces its own set of risks. We're talking about vendor lock-in, service outages, and data sovereignty concerns. What if Azure proves to be unsuitable or too expensive? What happens if Azure experiences an outage, disrupting DOGE's operations? And where is this data being stored? Is it subject to different legal jurisdictions that could compromise data privacy and security? These are all critical questions that need to be answered. Now, let's move on to the business risks. The reputational damage from this could be enormous. Public backlash is almost guaranteed, especially if these AI-driven cuts lead to reductions in essential programs and services. Democrats are already expressing concern, and this could further fuel political opposition. And what about the students, educators, and other stakeholders who may lose trust in the Department of Education if they feel their data is being misused or that the AI is leading to unfair outcomes? Trust is hard to earn and easy to lose. The potential for operational disruption is also significant. The placement of employees on paid leave and the potential for job losses could negatively impact employee morale and productivity. Cuts to essential programs could reduce their effectiveness, harming students and schools. And the administration's actions could be challenged in court, leading to costly legal battles and further delays. This could create a complete mess. Finally, let's talk about the ethical risks. Fairness and equity are paramount. As we've discussed, AI bias could lead to discriminatory outcomes, disproportionately harming certain groups of students or schools. The lack of transparency in the AI's decision-making process makes it difficult to ensure that the cuts are fair and equitable. We need to ensure that these decisions are based on sound ethical principles, not just cold, hard data. Privacy violations are another major concern. Have individuals whose data is being used by the AI given informed consent? Is the AI collecting and processing more data than is necessary? And who is accountable for the decisions that are made based on this AI's analysis? If the AI's decisions are not subject to adequate human oversight, there's a risk that errors or biases will go undetected. We need to demand accountability and responsibility in the use of AI in government. We also need to consider the impact on vulnerable populations. Cuts to education spending could disproportionately harm disadvantaged students who rely on these programs. Cuts to special education programs could harm students with disabilities. We have a moral obligation to protect these vulnerable populations and ensure that they have access to the resources they need to succeed. So, what's the bottom line? The potential dismantling or significant shrinking of the Department of Education using AI is a high-stakes gamble with far-reaching consequences. It could exacerbate existing inequalities, undermine economic competitiveness, and weaken democratic institutions. We need to demand transparency, accountability, and a focus on fairness and equity in the use of AI in government decision-making. This isn't just about numbers. It's about the future of our students, our communities, and our nation. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the world of AI and technology. Until then, stay informed, stay engaged, and stay skeptical. We'll see you next time.